After 4 months, we are back. And so I'm going to use this episode to share a little bit about what I've been up to during the podcast break. What if you could make more money and multiply your impact with books without selling thousands of copies? Wouldn't you want to find out just how to do that? Well, that's what the show is all about.
Hi, I'm Hennika Watkins Porter, speaker, coach, author of Podcast Power, and the host of the Entrepreneurial You podcast, inviting you to listen to the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast, brought to you by C. Ruth Taylor, best-selling indie author and the Caribbean's most trusted voice on entrepreneurship. Get ready to dominate entrepreneurship.
It's episode 183 of the Authorpreneur Secrets podcast. After 4 months, we are back. And so I'm going to use this episode to share a little bit about what I've been up to during the podcast break, including writing and publishing 6 books in the past 4 months, completing my dissertation research and the first 3 chapters of the 5 chapters of the dissertation, and what the data gathering process was like. I can't give you too much information. We have to save it for the doctoral defense. But it was a very productive period of absence, and I accomplished what I intended to accomplish during the absence and did even better than I dreamed. So you're going to learn about my authorpreneurship ventures during my absence and me taking on the challenge of having 12 new books published for 2025. So stay tuned.
Your book is the perfect spark to get the fire going in your personal life, career, business, or ministry. Light that book spark.
All right. You would have heard the intro to the podcast, and there's a little change. So for years, I had, what if writing a book could not just bring transformation, but help you to gain financial freedom and leave a legacy? Wouldn't you want to find out what that is all about? Well, that's what the show is all about. And then I would have my podcast coach, Hennika Watkins Porter, do her introduction. Well, I've changed it because part of the purpose for this podcast is to equip, to bring awareness, and to raise up 10,000 Caribbean entrepreneurs by 2030. And we are less than 5 years away from fulfilling that goal. In my research, as has been seen in other researches, most authors are not making a full-time income with their writing. They are not selling enough books to make a living. So by and large, on average, the average author, whether independent or otherwise, if they don't have a large following, if they don't have a big backing of a publishing company behind them, if they don't do the work that is required and have the resources, they're not going to be an Alex Hermosi. They're not going to sell 2.7 billion books a day. So the average is that they're selling between 200 and 1,000 copies of their books, right? And then my research of Jamaican independent authors kind of backed that. And so what I want to do through the Authorpreneurship Challenge for 2030 is to encourage more authors to do what I did. In the beginning, I was not selling enough books to make a living with my writing. And so what I did, I switched. Instead of just depending on book sales, I sought to turn the content of the books into a profitable program where I could teach it, coach it, and charge sometimes 10 times or more the cost of the book to teach the very same content that is in the book with some support. Fortunately for me, a lot of what I do in terms of the programs, they're related to authors who are my main target market and publishing books. So there is a great demand for publishing books. And another thing that authors can do is to offer publishing services. And so the Ally findings showed that authors who were making an average almost 13,000 a year or so, many of them they weren't just selling books, they were offering publishing services. So publishing services is a viable model, authorpreneurship model. And especially if you have a book that you've published, you can use that book as proof of concept and then help others to write, publish, or do any part of the publishing process, whether that's the editing or the formatting, to support the book sales. And so I want to encourage at least 10,000 Caribbean authors, whether at home or in the diaspora, to explore other ways to earn with their books or their book publishing skills beyond just depending on book sales. That's it. So if you're able to try at least one model of authorpreneurship, because you can use your book to earn multiple income streams. If you're able to implement just one income stream and you earn at least $1,000 beyond the book sales, then I would add you to that authorpreneurship list. And I want to say, are you going to join me for that challenge? It can be both fiction or nonfiction books, but it is certainly much easier with nonfiction books. So I'm going to be challenging authors, Caribbean authors, every 3 to 12 months to earn between $1,000 and $10,000 with their books, and also to increase their impact, because you can get your message to the masses without depending on book sales, because the book opens doors. So that's what it's all about. So going forward until 2030, I'm going to teach you how to make more money with your books and multiply your impact without mass book sales. And are you up for the challenge? I'll be sharing how I am doing that and encouraging you to join me in this adventure. There's more on that I can't share now. But bear in mind too that my doctoral studies is in this area of authorpreneurship and sustainable income for authors. And so when I finish the doctorate, I'll have a lot of information to share, and I can't wait. So that's part of the new thing happening. So this podcast is purposeful. I'm not sure if we're going to continue after 2030, but we'll see. God willing, I'm in good health. We're going to continue until 2030. All right. Okay, so what did I do during the absence? One, I completed the doctoral research, as I said in the intro. So my doctoral research had several components. I needed to examine my own authorpreneurship initiatives over the past 10 years. The top ones, I had to look at document analysis. So that went along with that. And like I said, because I haven't defended my doctorate yet, I don't want to get into too many details, but it was a 7-part research. I had to interview microfinance entities in Jamaica, and then I did a Jamaican author survey. I found out that a lot of the Jamaican authors don't want to be called self-published authors, even though they are funding the publication. So I had to change it to independent author survey. And with that, people were more open. So I did a survey and I got 50 respondents, and the findings are very interesting. Like I say, I can't share too much. I have to wait until the doctoral dissertation is completed. But I want to thank all the persons who participated. One of the things that gave me a boost was sending the request to jam copy to send it to their authors. That's the Jamaican Copyright Association. And Jam Copy really helped, and the authors responded. So I was stuck at, I think, 28 for a long time. And after sending it to Jam Copy, I got more than enough responses. I had to turn it off. So I'm grateful for that. Also, the research involved interviewing individual authors. And so I did 10 interviews with individual authors, some of whom I published for and others that I didn't publish for. And I also had to do 2 focus groups. So I interviewed members of my Indie Authorpreneurs Facebook group and also members of my Authorpreneur Secrets Academy, because we turned this one book into multiple income streams and multiple formats of delivery. So this is the text, and this is the book upon which this program is named: Authorpreneur Secrets, Write Fast, Publish Cost Effectively, and Generate Lasting Income. Do not purchase the old version, which is the one you're looking at in the background. This is the updated and expanded edition that has the Caribbean rock stars. It's just tremendously updated, and it has our Vision 2030 in there as well. And I use this for publishing certification training. So during the break, I certified 3 new publishers or publishing coaches, and they are now publishing for other authors, and they are freelancing with Bamboo Sparks. And I'm so proud of our publishing coaches. So we had Janet Morgan, who published her Amazon bestseller, The Art of Living Well, Mama Liti's Proverbs. That's a legacy book dedicated to her mom. And we had Phyllis Thomas, who worked with Dr. David Corbin to publish his book. And she's been working on her own publication, Gratitude is Good Medicine. We also had Natalia. Now, Natalia has been working with Bamboo Sparks for a while, and she's gained a wealth of experience. And so she was also certified. And so I think that took place in August. And so the publishing certification, there are 2 others now who are on the finishing. So I'm so proud of them. So that's on the equipping side. And those are authorpreneurship ventures because, again, I turned the content of this book into programs. This is the chief training guide for my publishing certification program. And this is a premium offering, right? So that's a $5,000 program. I think it's going to go to $6,000. And one of the publishing coaches in training said that the program is actually valued at more than what I've charged. And I know that, but I'm okay with this price because your first publishing client might be $1,500 US, might be $2,500, might be $3,000, depending on how you package it. And so with just 1 or 2 clients, you'll be able to make back the investment. But I'm comfortable with that for now. And then the big thing during the break was taking on the challenge of 12 books for 2025. So when we took the break, I had published 2 new books. Better Than I Dream was book number 30. And I had published the print version of small book, Big Impact. That was my first book written and published in 24 hours as an ebook, right? That was in December 2024. And then I did the print book in 2025 and launched it in April. And I also launched Better Than I Dreamed and published that as a new book in print and ebook formats in May as part of the 10-year publishing, 10-year business anniversary, right? So we did that. And I don't know, the muse has just come and I want to write and write and write. So during the absence, I did 6 new books, one of which was this book, Million Dollar Book Secrets, the author's shortcut to making millions without mass book sales, which really is my journey. And the model shared in this book can make you $1 million in US, Canadian, or pounds. The models just work. But I'm more specifically speaking to my own process in terms of a Jamaican millionaire, in terms of making millions in Jamaican dollars. And so in Jamaican dollars, $1 million is like 6,000 something US dollars, 6,250 at the current rate. So even if you are making an extra 6,000 US dollars every 3 to 12 months, it would be worth it with your book. And so I decoded my process. And this book, I wrote it and published it in 24 hours. The ebook, right? So not just writing it in 24 hours, but also publishing it. So this is my fastest written and published one. I did other 24-hour sprints, but publishing this, and then within 10 days, I had the print book out because, you know, I prefer to print a book and then read it through to make sure everything is well before publishing the print edition. And then, so that was the 1st of June. Wrote it, edited it, everything, and published the ebook. And then by the 10th of June, the paperback was out. And then by the 18th of June, the audiobook was out. And then by July 17th, that's less than 2 months later, about 6 weeks later, I launched a program with this, my $1 Million Book Secrets Mastermind, to encourage authors to turn their books, Jamaican authors, Caribbean authors. There are some Caribbean countries that the US dollar is not as strong, like in Barbados, I think it's 2 to 1. I think is 2 Bajan to 1 US. In Cayman, it's almost on par. But for the rest of us in the Caribbean, the US dollar stretches. It goes far away. And so without selling 5 copies, I made over 1,500 US with this book by turning the content of this into a mastermind. And these are some of the things I want to teach you guys. So that's over 250,000 Jamaican dollars. And I intend to do that over and over, right? Until I turn this into $1 million. And one day I hope to make the billion US dollars, but 1,000 US can go a far way. That's some people's salary every month in Jamaica. And that's more than what most of the authors in my survey are making with their books, trying to sell 100 books, maybe to make that amount in profit. And I'm talking profit. So that was a big thing. So the $1 Million Book Challenge. And if you go to the website, authorpreneursecrets.com, I have changed the lead magnet, which is what I give away. You can get the $1 Million Book checklist to see if you have the type of book that can generate $1 million, whether in any currency, right? And so you can download the checklist and start your analysis to see if you have $1 million book. And then what were the other books that I worked on? So my website, extramileja.com, is where my authorship ventures are. So it's book-based, book-led. So you see a lot of my books up there. The free course, Get Roots Free Rocket Writing ebook and masterclass, how to write your nonfiction book or your story in 24 hours, or a small book. And this was pre-AI. So with AI, you can even go faster. And so the latest book, so these are the 6 books for this year. Or it's really 8 books. But during the absence, I worked on, let me see, I said 6, right? So I did 2 more novellas, 5 Days Forever, which is another Caribbean romance, short love story about a tragedy that takes place 5 days after a couple got married, and then the whole journey of bouncing back. Will she love again? And then $1 Million Book Secrets. Then I did my first children's book. And almost all of these were like 24-hour sprint in terms of writing, not publishing. I delayed the publishing for some of them, but all of these were written within a 24-hour period or less. So my first children's book, Ari Dreams, that was 24 hours, both writing and illustrating. And I used ChatGPT. On another episode, perhaps I'll talk about that. And I know some people are anti-AI. I wasn't sure it could be done, but Ari Dreams, and this made Amazon bestseller list. Then between Goodbye and Hello, about a romance that starts at a funeral. This is a Caribbean romance, and I include some patois in this one. So this one is really Jamaican, include rural area romance, so to speak. And then there was Kitchen Sink Revelations. You know, many times I'm around the kitchen sink and I get these new ideas. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then there was Small Book, Big Impact, like I told you about. There's another one that I'm not seeing here, but these are some of the books that I worked on. There should be book number 8. Oh, I remember what the other book was. I wrote my first poetry book as well, Dare to Love Again, to go along with the trilogy. And it's a poetic reflection on love, loss, and legacy. No AI, just my thoughts. And some of the poems were written before, helping me to process love and loss and thinking about legacy, and also reflecting on the series itself. I continue that. So 12 books for 2025 to publish those. What do I plan to do with them? Well, one of the things about books is that they spark conversations. I want to also do more speaking, mentoring, and some of them I just wrote them for myself. Like the Dare to Love Again trilogy is to give me hope that, you know, one day I will love again and not give up on marriage, right? So some of them was just to give me hope, and then if they're able to help others. So they're really to bring a message of hope and healing to others. And this one definitely was to earn more money so I can take care of my bills and, you know, build up retirement income and all that you need money for. And this has begun to do that. And you know, if they're selling, the book sales for me is brought up. And it kind of, why would you write a book and not emphasize book sales? Don't get me wrong, I'm all for book sales, but I prefer to create the programs around the book or to use the book to open doors that I can get the message of the book to the masses, right? So I might get an invitation to speak, and half of the audience may not read the book, but they will hear what is in the book because I'm going to talk about what's in the book. So I use the books to open doors. But the byproduct is, as a result of doing that, people often want to buy the book. So my authorpreneurship strategy promotes books, it markets the book, it monetizes the book, so you end up with book sales. So that's what I have been up to. I really want to use the podcast going forward to showcase the Vision 2030 Caribbean Authorpreneur Rockstar. So if you have earned at least $1,000 with your book beyond book sales, you created a program with it, or if you are making a living selling books, you would still qualify. Like my friend Aminata, right? She makes a living writing and publishing lots of romance novels, right? And then you would qualify, because that's what the show is all about. So I want to inspire you. I want to help you to market, and I want you to make more money with the book and transform more lives, right? So it's about creating the books, the programs. It's about reproducing my own success, helping you to get the results that I've gotten. And it's about transforming lives, because if as an author you make more money and you know how to turn that book into multiple income stream, that's an asset for your family, right? You can build generational wealth. And if you can use the book in such a way that even when you're out of the picture, you create a blueprint that others can run with your book and market it, then that would be beautiful. But I really want to help more authors to create sustainable income with books. That's a big deal. And of course, the big news was Alex Ermos's book launch, his live book launch. $105 million, 3 point something million books sold in a weekend. And just looking at that as a model to see what more can we do. So I'm going to have an episode on that as well. And then, like, to round out the year, November is usually NaNoWriMo or National Novel Writing Month. And I normally use that for my Rocket Writing Challenge, which usually is nonfiction based. So I'm going to switch that this year to a small book, big impact challenge, where I'm challenging you to write a small book and even publish it within 30 days, right? I'm reproducing what I do. So I want to challenge you to write and publish a small book in 30 days. That could be a children's book. It could be a nonfiction. It could be a novella. And that can be anywhere from 24 pages to 200 pages, anywhere from 1,000 words up to 30,000 words. And then I'll have prizes for the winners. Then we'll be preparing for the summit. So I'll start promoting the summit to round out the year. I'll break down some of what I did in terms of all of these 24-hour books that I've written. I'm going to be talking more about that to help you. Did I use AI for some of them? Certainly. And I'll tell you how I use it. For some of them, no. ChatGPT is the main AI tool that I have used for editing, for refining. But like I said, I'll explain more in episodes to come, like how I wrote and illustrated my first children's book in 24 hours and made the Amazon bestseller list, right? So a lot of big things happened in the months while I'm away. I also was interviewed, I think it's 2 podcasts, The Journey with Neville D'Angelo, and that was fun. I also did an interview with Shanice Warp Graham for the Waiting with Grace podcast. And so it's a whole heap of things, you know. Let me get back, because I have listeners all over. It's not just Jamaican. So that was my patois coming out. So I did a lot in the 4 months that we had to break. All right. So remember, of making many books, there is no end. So go pen it to win it and dominate authorpreneurship. Ta for now. Until next time.